but also to provide jobs for more than a minuscule share of the working population, is review some of the recent calls for change made by those concerned about the future of U.S. manufacturing, and explain in some detail some of their principal recommendations. Fundamentally, this is a story about the country's past achievements and its more recent failings, and, as always in my books, I will not make any forecasts. Hence, I will not answer the question of whether American manufacturing will experience a true renaissance, as its dwindling proponents hope, or whether it will, in employment terms, if not in total output value, become an ever more marginal economic sector, as many economists belonging to the serving potato chips is as good as making microchips school equanimously anticipate. All I can say is that I see the odds of America's true manufacturing renaissance and the sector's further retreat to be no better than even. Introduction. In 1899, Ransom Olds began to assemble his Oldsmobiles, essentially buggies with an engine under the seat. 2 years later, he marketed his Curved Dash, America's first serially produced car. 2 years after that, Cadillac Automobile Company began selling its vehicles, and in 1903, David D. Buick set up his motor company. In 1908, Oldsmobile, Buick, Cadillac, and 20 other car and part-making firms came under the umbrella of General Motors, established by William Durant, Buick's general manager. The company kept growing and innovating, and by 1929, it had passed Ford in annual sales. It survived the Great Depression and prospered during World War II, when it was the largest maker not only of military trucks, but also of engines, airplanes, tanks, and other armaments and ammunitions. In 1953, President Eisenhower named Charles E. Wilson, the company's president, the U.S. Secretary of Defense. When Wilson was asked during his confirmation hearings about any possible conflict of interest, he answered that he foresaw no problems. Because for years I thought what was good for the country was good for General Motors, and vice versa, a reply that became known as an iconic but reversed in retelling claim that what's good for General Motors is good for the country. By 1962, when its share of the U.S. car market peaked at 50.7%, GM was the world's largest manufacturer, with an apparently assured prosperous future. But that was before OPEC, and before Honda and Toyota began selling cars in the United States. By 1996, when GM moved its headquarters into the glassy towers of Detroit's Renaissance Center, its share of the U.S. car and light truck market was less than 33%, as the company became infamous for poorly designed models built with too many defects. A decade later, GM was a hopelessly failing corporation, and when it declared bankruptcy on June 1, 2009, its U.S. market share of light vehicles was just 19.6%, its share of cars just 16%. The bankruptcy eliminated not only the preposterous Hummer, but also a long-running, since 1926, Pontiac brand, and Saturn, set up in 1985 as a different kind of car company to challenge the Japanese designs. Even after the company's stock was refloated in November 2010, the government kept a 34% stake. This trajectory, from the world's largest automaker to bankruptcy and bailout, embodies the rise and retreat of American manufacturing, with one big difference. Unlike GM, thousands of America's electronics, textile, shoe, furniture, car parts, or metalworking companies were not too big to fail, and simply disappeared during the past 2 generations. But the outcomes are not foreordained, and the GM story also carries an intriguing message of rebound. In 2011, helped by a partial economic recovery, GM sold more than 2.5 million vehicles in the United States and a total of just over 9 million worldwide, reclaiming its global primacy, while Toyota, beset by its own quality and delivery problems, slipped to 4th place, behind Renault, Nissan, and Volkswagen. And Ford rode out the economic